All right, today we're diving into a pretty wild theory from our source material. It's a hypothetical financial war game set just a couple of years from now in March 2026. And it explores a fascinating question. What if a major global conflict could be won not with bullets and bombs, but with banking codes, before a single shot is even fired? Let's break down exactly how this scenario is supposed to work. This quote right here, which the source attributes to Donald Trump, really gets to the heart of the strategy we're about to explore. It's brutal, it's simple, and it's a total reversal of traditional warfare. The idea isn't to fight a conventional war, it's to go straight for the financial jugular as the very first move. Now, let's be super clear about something. Our job here is to explain the thinking inside this specific scenario. We're just neutrally walking you through a theory that's laid out in our source text. We're not saying this is a prediction, and we're definitely not saying it's a fact. So with that in mind, let's get into the mechanics of how this would supposedly all go down. Okay, so at the very core of this whole scenario is a strategy with a very memorable name, the Unlocking Chiang Kai-shek Plan. Now, the name itself makes you think of releasing something powerful that's been locked away, right? And in this case, it's all about unlocking huge financial resources for a very, very specific goal. So what is it exactly? Well, according to the text, it's basically a preemptive financial strike. The idea is to stop a potential military conflict, not with soldiers, but with sanctions. The plan, as it's described, is to find and freeze the massive offshore wealth of key figures in China, and then, and this is the crazy part, seize that money and reroute it to pay for Taiwan's defense. So a plan this huge, this audacious, how does it even get started? The whole scenario really hinges on a coordinated 1-2 punch delivered by the United States and, maybe surprisingly, the United Kingdom. This isn't just a solo mission by the US. It's framed as a joint Anglo-American financial attack. And the source argues that the UK's role here is absolutely essential. The City of London is basically the gateway to this enormous network of US dollars that are held in banks all over the world. By agreeing to slam that gate shut and to lift the veil of secrecy on tax havens like the British Virgin Islands, the UK provides the key to freezing trillions of dollars. So why would the UK do this? The source says it's not about ideals. It's about cold, hard interests. First, there's the threat of US secondary sanctions. If London doesn't play ball, it could get cut off from the global dollar system, which would be a total catastrophe for its financial industry. Second, post-Brexit, the UK really wants a trade deal and access to top-shelf US military tech. And finally, there's a little diplomatic revenge, using its deep historical knowledge of Hong Kong's financial system to expose all kinds of hidden money. The very first target, the first domino to fall in this financial assault, according to the text, is Hong Kong. The plan is described as nothing less than a financial nuclear bomb designed to instantly turn one of the world's most important financial centers into a trap. So this attack happens in 3 stages. First, a meltdown. The US Fed basically cuts off Hong Kong's supply of US dollars, which breaks its currency peg. That's the thing that keeps its money stable. Second, a death sentence for the offshore yuan. London shuts down all the financial plumbing, the clearing channels, making the currency basically unusable outside of China. And then finally, a precision hunt, where intelligence services supposedly decrypt old financial data to tag exactly which assets to seize. And this right here really paints a picture of the end result. The source uses this incredibly powerful metaphor. In this scenario, Hong Kong is no longer a gateway for money to flow. It's a graveyard where assets go to die. They're trapped, and eventually, they're seized. But the strategy doesn't just stop at Hong Kong. Oh, no, that's just the beginning. The next phase described in the text is a global squeeze, designed to make sure there are absolutely no safe havens, no escape routes left for the money they're targeting. The source explains that other financial hubs, places like Singapore, are basically forced to pick a side. With the threat of US sanctions hanging over them, their famous banking secrecy just evaporates. What used to be a secure, safe box for foreign money suddenly becomes a totally transparent fishbowl where US authorities can see everything. And the net gets cast even wider. The scenario suggests that even a place like Dubai becomes a no-go zone. Using anti-terrorism laws and really advanced AI that can track crypto transactions, the US and its allies shut down all the other backdoors. The age of the financial safe haven in this scenario is declared to be over. Now, this is the really crucial part. This massive financial shockwave isn't just about money. It's designed to trigger an equally massive political shockwave. The theory is that when you freeze the money of the powerful, the political system itself starts to crack, and the infighting begins. And this slide lays out the predicted chaos. First, you get system failure. Officials in intelligence and other key spots are purged because they didn't see this coming. Second, you get elite infighting. With all their personal fortunes frozen, powerful families allegedly turn on each other in a full-blown property protection war. And finally, you see military hesitation, as generals and commanders start to think twice about fighting what looks like a losing battle for a regime that's in an economic freefall. And this brings us to the final and probably the most jaw-dropping step in the unlocking Chiang Kai-shek plan. It's not just about freezing the assets, it's about what happens to them next. The text calls this the ultimate asset reversal. The source puts a number on what it says Taiwan needs for its defense: $1.25 trillion. I mean, that's just a colossal figure. It seems almost impossible to come up with. But this is exactly where the asset reversal comes into play.
The core idea here is brilliantly simple: make the aggressor pay for the victim's defense. The text actually draws a parallel to the real-world Repo Act, which lets the U.S. seize Russian assets to help rebuild Ukraine. In this scenario, a similar law is used to take all those seized funds and wire them directly into a Taiwan Defense and Resilience Fund.
The source material even claims that in this hypothetical scenario, the process has already started. A first slice of $50 billion from what it calls abnormal accounts is already being processed for transfer by the US and the UK. And this ancient proverb, which the text quotes, just perfectly sums up the entire idea. The very money that was meant to project power and influence is captured and then turned into a defensive shield for its intended target. I mean, you can't get more ironic than that. And that leaves us with the central question that this whole scenario poses. It really pushes us to think, could the battlefields of the future be fought not with tanks and missiles, but with sanctions and SWIFT codes? Is it actually possible for a conflict to be won before a single shot is ever fired? It's a provocative idea and definitely one to think about.